Good afternoon. Welcome to the First Religious Society Unitarian Universalist here in Newburyport, Massachusetts. My name is Reverend Rebecca Bryan, and I am honored to be the minister here of this beloved congregation, nearly 300 years old, situated right here in the city of Newburyport, first facing the water in Market Square, and then since 1801 here in this building on this land. Also, we know it is the place where Cheryl and Scott were married, and these gorgeous flowers were envisioned from that night many years ago. I first met Ed Lynn in 2018 when I had arrived here as the new minister, and Ed reached out to me with this collegiality, with this enthusiasm, with this love of our faith and respect that is rare and greatly appreciated. So thank you, Ed. It is my honor to be officiating this service. I ask now that everyone take a moment to make sure your cell phones or any other ringing devices are turned off. A couple other quick logistics so we can move fully into this hour together. The family invites everyone to join them over at Mission Oak Grill in the Steeple Hall where there is a reception. Everyone is invited to join them there. There are restrooms in the lower level. If you need those, there are stairs through the vestibule, and there's also a lift if you'd prefer to not be using stairs. Our ushers are happy to help you with that. When I was thinking about this time and coming here together and thinking about knowing a little bit about what it's like to be a minister and having a spouse and what that life is like together and knowing the decades that you did that together, I thought about Unitarian churches, Unitarian Universalist churches, and how for generations we have supported and stood up for values that were so dear to Marge and certainly to Ed. Values of equal rights for women, for Blacks, and all people, and how we cherish priorities of family and celebration and intellectual debate. We're here this afternoon to celebrate the life of a remarkable human being, Marjorie Lynn, mother to Bruce and to Cheryl, grandmother to Isley and to Chase, Katrina, and Max, mother-in-law to Lori and to Scott, colleague, role model, friend to countless people here in Newburyport, also in Ipswich, in Danvers, and from all of the 7 states that this couple lived in together. And of course, above all, beloved wife and partner for 65 years to Ed Lynn, the love of her life. As you all know, Marge was a remarkable woman. Like her mother, Mildred, she was a force to be reckoned with in all the good meanings of that word. She lived deliberately and with devotion to her family, Unitarian and Universalist values, as I said, to the advancement of women, the protection of children, the welfare of community. This afternoon, may we draw inspiration from all that Marge's life can teach us. May we remember her talents and vibrancy with gratitude, and may we feel by the love in this sanctuary the difference that one life can make. Come, let us worship and celebrate together.
Please join us in the words of the chalice lighting printed in your order of service. We gather this hour, this present day, the joys and sorrows, the gifts and needs. Our life is beacon of hope, sign of our quest, truth, meaning, and celebration of life we share together.
I'd like to invite everyone into a time of contemplation, meditation, centering. I'll be using a favorite meditation of Ed's that he himself has used countless numbers of times in his long and respected ministry, including 32 years as the minister of the North Shore Unitarian Universalist Church in Danvers, Massachusetts. I invite you to even soften your gaze or close your eyes, look out the windows, and think of Marge. A meditation. With you, a part of me hath passed away. For the peopled forest of my mind, a tree made leafless by this wintry wind, shall never don again its green array. Chapel and fireside, country road and bay, have something of their friendliness resigned, your gift of charity and heart's ease, and the dear honor of your friendship. For these memories, my life is now rich. But we know all things change. The darkness changes to light, and the light to darkness. Lovely the rose, and yet its beauty in time passes on. White is the lily, but it falls and fades away. White is the snow, but it melts from earth where it lay. The gentle river flows on to the majestic sea, and these changes of life and death must be faced with our best courage. In our hearts, we know we will not lose strength. We will be brave, and yet of our sorrows unashamed. Amen. Before we hear from Ed and Marge's grandson, Chase, who will be delivering a family eulogy that they all wrote together, I just wanted to prepare ourselves and enter into some memories and genuinely acknowledgements of Marge's life. We're going to be hearing from the family about her personal life, which is beautiful. And yet she also had a remarkable public life of service and leadership. So let us remember that lasting legacy that Marge left to this community of Newburyport and others, and to the lives of literally, as I've read and contemplated all that she did, thousands of people her life touched. In addition to being a humble and dedicated minister's wife, mother and grandmother, Marge was an accomplished professional woman who blazed a trail for other women ahead of her time, who supported the welfare of children, especially those in most need, and who truly lived her life as one of service to the community. She served as the executive director of the YWCA here in Newburyport for 22 years. Over the course of those 2+ decades, she led 2 capital campaigns and facility renovations, initiated daycare services, a family resource center, expanded the aquatic programs, for which I remain deeply grateful. She developed new affordable housing to complement the existing women's residence, which in fact, that housing was named in her honor at her retirement. Marge was also the impetus behind the creation of a coalition of concerned and caring citizens called the Citizens Against Prejudice Action Coalition. These people were dedicated to ending bigotry in all forms: racial, ethnic, sexual orientation, religious, gender, physical and mental handicap, and age. This coalition initiated the first area Martin Luther King Jr. breakfast, and Marge received the Drum Major Award from the Danvers Martin Luther King Committee. And as if that is not enough, which is quite remarkable, she also served for 15 years, including 5 as president on the board of the Harbor Schools for Children in Need, 10 years as a member of the Newburyport Rotary Club. She was on the board of the Newburyport Chamber of Commerce, where she was also the chairperson. She was one of the first 2 women, I think we'll hear more about this, on the board of directors at the Institute for Savings Bank, where she initiated an innovative loan program for low-income women. And there were more things that we could lift up. She was also a writer and an editor. She was the editor of the North Shore Hospice newsletter, and later edited 2 of Ed's books, the first entitled Tired Dragons, Adapting Church Architecture to Changing Needs. She also co-created with her husband Ed, in retirement, a book entitled Boys Will Be Men, a compilation of letters and coming-of-age story of her son Bruce, which I just ordered this morning, and I look very forward to reading. Chase.
Marjorie Lynn was born in 1940 to Mildred and William Grimm in Manchester, Connecticut. With 3 older brothers and a younger one to come, she faced the challenges of living in a man's world very early in her life. Fortunately, she had a titan of a role model in her mother, Mildred, who commanded a towering stature, presence, character, and intellect. Her father had lost his hearing in World War I, so it fell to Mildred to both run the household of 5, as well as put bread on the table as a title examiner for the state of Connecticut. She was always described as highly, if not overly, capable, often having to handle everything while all the men were out playing golf. Marge was a top student, but postponed going to college to support Ed's career and to start a family. A minister's wife was sort of an unwritten job in and of itself, and she embraced it because giving to the community was instinctive to her, because she believed in the Unitarian Universalist principles, because she made such dear friends at the church, and most of all, to support the love of her life. When Ed settled in his first church and Bruce and Cheryl were in school, she enrolled at Goddard College. Her degree honed Marge's credentials, and she landed her first professional job as a technical writer at the think tank MITRE Corporation. According to her, she had to make sense out of the work that the genius MITRE scientists perform but couldn't explain with their limited communication skills. Marge was never daunted by any problem or subject, not even rocket science. But when the position of executive director of the YWCA came up, it was her dream job, and it turned out that she was their dream candidate. It marshaled her bounty of energy, insight, people skills, communication skills, organization skills, caring for others, and activism for women. She was an inspirational leader who transformed the Y and became a Newburyport legend. Despite the demands of her leadership position, she always had the desire and energy to devote to nurturing her family and her home. She was a great counselor, a great cook, and the resident editor and emergency typist for both high school papers and college essays. Most importantly, she had a way of knowing what people needed and finding a way to help them. Cheryl recalls a time in high school when she was particularly stressed out about college applications. Marge told her to just take a mental health day. Cheryl didn't even think a parent was allowed to suggest playing hooky, but of course, Marge would be the one to call the school to cover for her own daughter. Marge understood that a missed day of assignments was a necessary trade to take a breath and recenter. She always just knew stuff like that. She wasn't just smart, she was wise. Throughout her exceptional life, filled with more gifts and achievements than we can go through here, she served as a role model for her friends, colleagues, and family in so many ways. She held strong to many principles, and as a result, home life was filled with high energy, raised voice, intense debates on everything from equal pay to curfews. But when the debate was over, it was over. She would be the first person to smile and say something upbeat and affectionate to all she had just engaged in verbal combat. Perhaps her two most practiced values were appreciation and celebration. Marge wouldn't just spend for the heck of it, but if you had a special occasion, then all bets were off. Christmas was an especially cherished holiday in the Lynn house because it was the one time you could, and most often would, get the things you really wanted. She and Ed also had a particular knack for celebrating 5-year milestones. But when you reckon everyone's birthdays and their anniversary, plus a few other assorted milestones and achievements, then virtually every year turns out to be a special year. Still, on these occasions, the indulgence was a mere extravagance, but instead a way of marking and appreciating life and people in that life. I've so far been referring to Marge by her given name, but as this is the last little bit, I hope no one minds if I continue by using the name I better know her by, which is Gibby. It's a name that came about because my sister struggled with the word grandma when she was little. Gibby's favorite and most extravagant celebration of all time was the family trip to Montargitario in Italy to celebrate her and Ed's 50th anniversary. Before the final lavish dinner overlooking the ocean from a cliff-top villa, Gibby led the toast from her and Grandpa, explaining that the first thing that came to her mind when asked what she would like for their 50th anniversary, never a second thought at all about it, was just to get everyone in the family together, because family is so important to us. Today's celebration of Gibby's life would have made her extremely happy, and I'm positive she wants us to have a wonderful time, not just today, but every day, which is something we will certainly always do whenever we might think of her. Thank you.
I am sharing my memories of Marge with you today, a friend for over 50 years, because of a phone call I received from Marge in December. Marge called me, which wasn't unusual, but this time with a shaky voice and a specific question. She asked if I would speak at her memorial service. I took a deep breath and said yes. To me, to make that call is an example of Marge's strength, courage, and love that she expressed in her life, and especially this past year. An aspect of our friendship centered on the parallels Marge and I shared in our lives. We were both born the same year, 1940. She just 2 months apart, she being my older sister. We're married at a young age, 18 and 21. We each had 2 children, graduated from college, Goddard and Leslie, after having our children, and we both dealt with the loss of a parent in our young adulthood. In recent years, after moving to Newburyport and being retired, Marge, Ed, Will, and I met frequently for breakfast. These were precious times to share about ourselves, our families, catch up on news of our children, and of course, all the grandchildren, as well as the latest books read, movies seen. These times spent with dear friends are treasured memories. Being an only child, I've connected with several women in my life as soul sisters. I consider Marge as one of my soul sisters, and she will live in my heart forever. In closing, I would like to share a reading I believe is a message from Marge to me, her family, and friends. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Tomorrow I will continue to be, but you have to be very attentive to see me. I will be a flower, a bird, or a leaf. I will be in this form and I will say hello to you. If you are attentive enough, you will recognize me and you may greet me. I will be very happy."
Marge and I met in 1983 when I first joined the North Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. I got to know her first through Ed, who shared his family life with the entire congregation very frequently. Later, since both Marge and I were executive directors of nonprofits, we shared many of our experiences in the work of our chosen field of service. She radiated passion for the work, and her smile, her dedication, her creative approaches to problem solving. What Marge imparted to me, I shared with hundreds of students who studied arts management in my annual summer institute, and I always gave her credit. One year, I got a card from Marge. When I opened the note, a tea bag fell out. The message read, "Forget the rubber chicken fundraising dinner. Make a cup of tea, put your feet up while drinking it, and send me," meaning the YWCA of Newburyport, "a check for $5. It was so simple, so clever, and so funny. Over the years, all of my students and my clients have used the tea bag as a basic fundraising tool, but I didn't send her any money for it. For many years, several of us from NSUU would host a dinner or lunch, all of which included Ed and Marge. I loved her cooking and the warmth that radiated in their home. We shared our last dinner at Nichols Village this past fall, And though she was going through a lot with hospitalizations and medical appointments, she was so upbeat and so thankful to be with us. Every one of those dinners included new updates on Bruce and Lori and Cheryl and Scott and their children, Isley, Chase, Katrina, and Max. She was so proud of every accomplishment, award, and change of career. Recollections from her annual trips to England made us feel like we were part of these journeys. For me, Marge was, and still is, the epitome of beauty, grace, incredible insight, and warmth. I get to smile and toast her every time I put my feet up and have a cup of tea.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Welch, and somewhere in my distant past, I was the president of the Institution for Savings here in Newburyport. I first met Marge in the 1980s. She was already the iconic, powerful, wonderful leader of the Newburyport Y. I was a little more regressed in my career. I was the young guy at the local bank. But our paths began to cross at Y events, and we became friendly. But in 1995, when along with Mary Larnard, retired principal of Newburyport High School, Marge joined the board of trustees at the Institution for Savings, and they were the first two women to ever be appointed to those positions. That shouldn't be a big deal, but in 1995, it was a very big deal, at least for us. And it was through that relationship that I really began to know her. Reverend Rebecca referred to an innovative loan program that Marge led. Let me explain just a little bit about what that was. It was called the Homelessness Prevention Loan Program, and it gave loans to families, but mostly single women, who found the biggest impediment to getting a home was not having the first month's rent and security deposit. So the loan would be in the amount of that first month's rent and security deposit, and it was intended to get that family or those women back on their feet. And I was the lending guy at the bank at the time, and it was Marge and I that were working on this program. I said, why don't we just give them the money? It's going to be a lot easier. That wasn't the point. The point was she wanted them to come in and sit down and go through the loan process, fill out an application, go home, let us decide whether or not they would get the loan. And of course, they were going to get the loan anyways. But the important thing was to mainstream those women and those families. And it ended, the results were pretty much what you would expect them to be. We had two wonderful success stories where two women who entered the program and made every loan payment that was scheduled to be made graduated and bought their own homes. And that was a stunning, stunning success. Whenever you have a board of directors, if it's high functioning, everybody brings a talent to the table. Some people bring legal expertise, some bring financial expertise. As Chase said in his eulogy, she was not only smart, she was wise. And Marge brought to us a simple quality. She was our conscience. When you deal with banking, sometimes it can get a little bit too much about dollars and cents, not enough about people, not about doing the right thing. Marge was always focused, and if I was getting off focus, she would very easily get me back on focus, to do the right thing, to do what was best for the people and what was best for the community. And many more times than not, that was also the best thing for the bank. There are two things, when I look back, that prove how valuable she was to us. She was certainly my colleague and my friend. In 2006, we had a board incident where friends were pitted against friends. It lasted for exactly a year. Friendships were lost, and it ended as quickly as it began when the individual who was at the core of this came in and gave to me a letter of resignation from the board. I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. When I learned the night before, Marge spent 3 hours on the telephone with that individual, convincing him that the right thing for him to do, the right thing for the bank as a whole, was for him to resign. The other thing that proved her value was when we merged with the Ipswich Cooperative Bank. Why would she be of value then? One foot firmly in Newburyport, 1 foot firmly in Ipswich. When things got dicey, when people got at loggerheads, she was always there to be the conciliator, to make us understand what Ipswich was like, to make them understand what Newburyport was like. She was our conscience. When I retired, I wrote her a note. And in that note, I told her I considered her my most valuable trustee. As Providence would have it, in November, quite by chance, I ran into Marge at Panera Bread in Newburyport, and we chatted and we reminisced. And she was unwell, but she was so upbeat and she was so positive, and she was not complaining. She was saying how tough this was on Ed, having to take her everywhere. And I reminded her of that note. And she looked at me and she smiled and she said, "You just said that because I helped you get rid of so-and-so." And I shook my head and said it was much more than that. And she knew it was much more than that. She was my friend. She was my colleague. May she rest in peace.
In addition to all the wonderful things we've heard and learned, Marge also loved flowers. And as I sat here taking in these words and imagining all these stories and this amazing life that we're celebrating and looking at these gorgeous flowers all around, I feel like she would just be saying, like, don't miss it. Don't miss it. Take it in. So I'd like to invite us into a time of prayer. I want to start with a few lines out of Ed's book that Marge had edited entitled Shore Lines. This was one of the things he brought me in 2018, and I treasure it. Wise words. So the first word is theories. But imagine, Marge, and the people, other people you love and care about, who help you make your way in life. Theories create interesting maps, but they're not a substitute for negotiating the channels of everyday life. Selecting a useful map can help, but only personal experience and judgment can truly chart the way. Like a meandering boat trip, most learning takes place not in theory, but in daily trial and error. Spiritual gratitude is the realization that life is sacred, precious, spirit-filled, and holy, not because of or because of the lack of any one life incident. So as each new day's sun rises, I repeat a daily mantra of appreciation adopted from Winslow Homer. The sun will not rise or set without my notice and thanks. So may we always notice and thank the beautiful gifts, both bidden and unbidden, both earned and offered in our lives. The gifts of flowers, the gifts of collaboration, of family, of friends, of standing up for what we know and believe is right, of doing the next right thing day after day, meeting after meeting, cause after cause, because we know it is holy work. May we treat each and every friendship as the gift that it is, each and every person that we meet as the inherently worthy piece and part of creation that they are. May we love our beloveds, our family, and our friends, and may we follow the conscience of our own hearts, our own minds, and see the gifts that each and every day offers us. Amen.
My grandfather Ed wrote this. I've been asked to say it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. You might have heard me coughing and blowing my nose and really struggling, and I think my body was trying to give me an out. But I know you'll bear with me. 67 years ago, I noticed an attractive young lady walking down the street. I didn't remember seeing her before. Being a neighbor, I thought I'd ask her on a date. She said yes, but that first date did not go well. As a college boy, I was full of existential BS, and as a high school girl, she was tired and sunburned from a day at the beach with her friends. But the next week, after a rainy day, I took another chance and asked if she would like to go for a ride to a nearby park. By the time we got there, night was falling. We found a bench at a small pond and just sat together, watching night come. It was in those quiet moments together that I think we both fell in love. Later, I learned that she was super smart and in the top of her class. I also learned she was a person of character. As an outstanding student, she qualified for the National Honor Society, but she was blackballed because one of her best friends was from a nearby low-income housing project, a friendship which, in the day, was apparently unbecoming of an Honor Society candidate. Instead of distancing herself from her friend, Marge used her smarts, called out the committee's prejudice, and was later admitted to the society. Another one of Marge's many achievements in high school was that she was the state debating champion in Connecticut. Now, as you might imagine, in our family discussions, I rarely won an argument. But that's okay, she was right most of the time anyway. When I graduated from college and she from high school, we were married in 1958. In our marriage, we shared a continuous optimism. I changed careers, we moved a lot, and Marge postponed her college career, but Marge was always supportive and positive. She was a can-do person. If there was a problem or an issue, Marge would dig right in without hesitation to be of help, a support she gave to our children, co-workers, the community, and to me. And when things went poorly, she'd say, "How can we make this work?" Nowhere was Marge's favorite saying, Bloom where you are planted, more evident than when she became the director, when she began as director of the YWCA of Newburyport. To its credit, in 1977, the YW Selection Committee saw her special spark, her articulateness, and her drive, and selected her to be their new executive director. She transformed the Y into a leading community resource. Because of her many contributions, I called her Mrs. Newburyport. Fittingly, in Newburyport, I was not known as the Reverend Lynn, but as Marge's husband. She and our family were especially honored when, at her retirement, the adjacent family residence was named for her, the Marjorie A. Lynn YWCA Family Residence. In our retirement, we loved to travel, especially in England and Europe. For me, it was the architecture. For her, it was the different cultures and individuals we met. We shared a sense of adventure and enthusiasm, but mostly we liked to sit anywhere where there was a view and enjoy a glass of wine or a coffee. Our motto was, if they don't serve cappuccino, we don't want to go there. Her can-do, positive attitude came to the fore when she was diagnosed with cancer. She continually talked about how fortunate we were to easily sell our home of 50 years in Ipswich, buy a new car, and move to the retirement community of Nichols Village. She didn't let cancer overshadow the day-to-day. Typical of her, she said this past Christmas that this was the best year ever because she was surrounded by love, and that everyone, including all of Bruce's English family, were here to celebrate together. I was fortunate to spend my life with her. A woman of rare beauty, articulate intelligence, and buoyant personality. She had compassion and a smile for everyone. She taught me how to express love. She was my buddy, my mate, and my sweetheart. We were not only married for 65 years, we were in love for 65 years. I and we all will miss her deeply. Me again. The last time I was here, we revisited a poem I had written 2 summers ago when we had heard that Gibby's cancer was terminal, and we all gathered in the Stropkay Lake House, Merry Meeting Lake, and we spent an incredible movie-like time there. It was beautiful, and I wrote this poem during that time. I later shared it with the family, and we were revisiting those memories recently. And I read there was a recording of me reading this poem in Katrina's Slice of Life, which she has been doing for Gibby for many years as a present. And after seeing that video, she said, "Oh, you're going to have to read that at my funeral." So that's what I will do. It's called Lake Love Poem. I love the lake, the woods, the waves, the deck, the boat, the car in the night, the sugar boiling, the flames in and out, the clouds, the swimming, the floating, the sun, the heat, the chill, white caps, bright silver, clear water, clean air, the trees, the stones, and apples, apples and apples and apples, and the drink, the drinking, the snoring, the sleep, the waking, the walking, the whining, the dogs, the playing, the talking, the yelling, the laughing, the quiet, the dark, the loons, the stars. It's all life. It's all living. It's all love. All love. All their love, love, love. It's all love, love, love.
Again, the family invites everyone to join them at the Mission Oak Grill in the upper steeple room immediately following the service, and they'll be greeting you there. Our closing words have significant meaning to the Lynn family. Ed used them to close every service at the North Shore UU Church, and the family uses these words as a grace at big celebrations, which are quite regular from what I'm hearing. Cheryl and Scott have these words engraved in their dining room table. So in Marge's honor and legacy, may love surround us, may joy gladden us, may peace lie deep within, and may our lives and the lives of all those we touch go well. Amen.